very good evening and a warm welcome to State of Business on Art Television. I am Samandrija Vardhana. Let's look at the headlines for the day. Government allocates 17 million rupees to provide flood relief. Even after 25 years of enforcement of the Act Against Torture, people have no clear trust on it, says a human rights lawyer. News in detail. Minister Bandula Gunawardene emphasizes that the government has allocated nearly 17 million rupees to provide relief for people affected by the extreme weather conditions which battered the country over the past few days. Meanwhile, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa today visited Anuradhapura and Polonnaru districts in order to inspect relief measures provided to the affected individuals from floods. Upon the visit to Anuradhapura and Polonnaru districts, which were severely affected by floods, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa instructed the relevant authorities to continue with providing assistance to the affected communities of the recent torrential rains. President Media Division states that the relief program is being implemented under two phases, such as provision of relief during the disaster as well as post-disaster activities. Thus, floods caused by torrential rains have affected 10 out of 22 divisional secretariat areas in Anuradhapura district. Almost 3,000 persons have been provided shelter at welfare centers and measures have been taken to provide them with cooked food and dry rations. Meanwhile, President has instructed the officials to inspect the damages caused to houses and take immediate remedial action. On the other hand, addressing a special media briefing held today morning, Minister Bandula Gunawardene noted that the government has already allocated 17 million rupees to provide relief for people affected by the adverse weather. Minister elaborated that Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa, as the Minister of Finance, has called the relevant ministerial officials and the officers of the Disaster Management Centre today to provide immediate relief to the victims. Subsequently, Minister Gunawardene added that steps to supply the remaining financial provisions for flood relief will be supplied under the vote on account or from the emergency fund. Banks and the small and medium enterprises are awaiting greater clarity over the government's announcement late Friday on the moratorium on loans below 300 million rupees as part of efforts to kickstart the economy and revive the private sector. The Finance Ministry on Friday in a statement said President Gotabaya Rajapaksa and Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa, who is also the Minister of Finance, Economy and Policy Development, have issued directives to chairmen and CEOs of all banks to suspend recovery of loans obtained by the SME sector. It said the government has taken a decision to take up new initiatives to revive SMEs with outstanding debt not exceeding 300 million rupees in each entity, since recently announced tax reform initiatives provide substantial savings to all banks, including the central bank. The statement added that the government expects the bank to use part of such savings to revive the SME sector on a priority basis. The Friday's directives from the President and the Prime Minister also incorporate redresses to SME paddy millers as well, since the government expects them to re-energize their milling operations to improve the competitiveness in the market and expects their capacities to be active during the 2019 to 2020 Maha season. The concessionary action will be followed by a comprehensive package coupled with already announced tax concessions designed by the Minister of Finance, Economy and Policy Development and the Central Bank, which will support both the lender and the borrowers, especially from the SME sector. However, the banks and the small and medium enterprises eagerly wait for further explanations over the government's announcement on the moratorium on loans below 300 million rupees as part of efforts to kickstart the economy and relief to the private sector. Meanwhile, responding to the doubts of the banks and small and medium enterprises, Senior Advisor on Economic Affairs to the Prime Minister, Ajit Niwad Cabral, said that the government decision to suspend recovery of loans obtained by the SME sector not exceeding 300 million rupees would not have a negative impact for the banking sector. Senior Advisor on Economic Affairs to the Prime Minister Ajit Niwad Cabral said that banks will freeze the capital for 1 year while the interest component would still be paid, and therefore there would not be any negative impact or additional financial pressure for the banks who were lenders. Former Central Bank Governor Cabral clarified that as the government had already directed the banks to resort to this plan as they will benefit with the exemption of a whole package of tax exemptions which the banks are now not required to pay to the government as well. He stressed that this would be a huge saving for the banks in return. Former Power and Energy Minister and one-time Finance Minister Ravi Karunanayake says the opposition is ready to give a reasonable time frame for the incumbent government and will seek a fresh mandate at the upcoming general election due in April next year. UNP parliamentarian Karunanayake made these remarks when he was questioned about the increasing prices of commodities during the festive season.
It has clearly proven that the difference between the promises given during the election period and practical situation when keeping those. Most of the promises given to public have not become true. Anyway, we will give our fullest cooperation to fulfill those pledges as we also expect an easy lifestyle for the general public. Anyway, another fresh election is nearing and most probably it will be held in April next year. We are ready to attend all the endeavors which are needed to reduce the cost of living. We know the government is still new and therefore we are ready to give them a reasonable time. I know all the promises given cannot be made by any government, but they are responsible for their promises. Our plan at this moment is taking a new mandate at the next election.
Stay tuned for more news after this break. Welcome back after the break. Human Rights Commission has received more than 1,800 complaints against torture from 2013 to 2017, and most of these cases are originated from key public places such as schools, police and tribe forces. These key information were shared at a recent panel discussion organized to celebrate the 25 years of enforcement of the act of torturing and other cruel, inhumane or contemptible treatments or punishments.
If I were to look at the number of complaints of torture that was said to be received by the Human Rights Commission that was in the report, I just made a note. It says over a period of 5 years, 2013 to 2017, we are looking at a total of 1,880 complaints in 5 years. And these are just the complaints that have come into the Human Rights Commission. A quick calculation will tell us that this says that we have an incident of torture in Sri Lanka, a complaint of torture every other day. So the complaints originate from a range of places, and it starts from our schools. We are looking at complaints about corporal punishment, we are looking at complaints about ragging, we are looking at complaints about law enforcement and military officials, we are looking at complaints against public officials in administration, a range of actors. If you were to compare this to the 115 indictments under the CAT, the Convention Against Torture Act in the past 25 years, very broadly comparing the number of complaints to the number of indictments, it looks like we're turning over 1% of the complaints into indictments. In terms of known convictions, we have been able to identify from the information given to us 9 cases in which convictions were delivered relating to 22 individuals. 9 convictions over a period of 25 years in a country where the complaints demonstrate something like every other day incidents of torture. It is a significantly low number. The system is failing complainants and failing to hold accountable those who engage in this conduct and those who permit and benefit from this conduct.
Stay tuned for stock updates after this break. Welcome back after the break. Trading at Colombo Stock Exchange ended on a negative note today. The all-share price index dropped 12.92 points to close at 6,031.81 and the S&P SL20 dropped 18.20 points to close at 2,927.69. The turnover was 388 million rupees and over 13 million shares were traded. Up next are forex rates. That's all news for today. Do join us tomorrow with State of Business. Until then, take care. Good night.